I'm Ashley, a graphic designer in New York, still reeling from the recent events that have turned my world upside down. Just a few days ago, I stood my ground against my parents in a heated confrontation over my grandmother's inheritance. The air was thick with tension, and their words were like daggers, but I refused to back down. It was a moment of truth, a breaking point in a long, standing family drama. Growing up, I lived in a seemingly ordinary middle-class neighborhood in Seattle. My parents, Laura and Mark, always put on a show of affluence. Our house had a well-manicured lawn, and Dad's Mercedes was always parked prominently in the driveway. Mom would say, "We need to make a good impression, Ashley. It's about our status in the community." But behind the shiny facade, things were far from perfect. The furniture inside our home was old and worn, and I often had to make do with hand-me-down clothes. Whenever I asked for something new, like art supplies for my passion for drawing, they'd sigh and lecture me about the importance of saving money. Meanwhile, Dad would come home with expensive golf clubs, and Mom would buy designer handbags. Just 30 minutes away from our house was my grandmother, Helen's cozy cottage. It was a small, unassuming place from the outside, but inside, it was a haven of warmth and love. Every Sunday, Mom would drop me off at Grandma's on her way to her book club. Grandma would greet me with open arms, her hugs smelling like freshly baked cookies. Her gray hair was always neatly pulled into a bun, and her green eyes sparkled with kindness. Grandma was a former art curator, and she immediately recognized my talent for art. "You have a gift, dear," she'd say as she helped me with my sketches. "Don't let anyone tell you that art isn't a worthy pursuit." But my parents saw it differently. "Art is just a hobby, Ashley. You need to focus on something practical, like business," Mom would say dismissively whenever she picked me up and saw my latest creation. As I got older, I started noticing the tension between my parents and Grandma. During family holidays, I'd overhear them arguing about money. One Christmas when I was 14, I heard Dad say, "Mom, you can't just keep your money to yourself. It should be shared among the family." Grandma replied firmly, "Mark, family responsibility isn't just about money. I have my own plans." After these arguments, my parents would give Grandma the cold shoulder, but she became even more protective of me. When it was time to apply for college, my parents pushed me to go to business school. But I had my heart set on the renowned Rhode Island School of Design. To my delight, I got accepted with a partial scholarship. I rushed home to tell my parents, hoping they'd be happy for me. But Dad just scoffed. "That art school? It's a waste of time and money. We saved for you to go to a real university and get a practical degree." Mom added, "The scholarship won't cover much. If you go, you're on your own financially." I was heartbroken. I called Grandma, and she invited me over for dinner. She told me she had some savings and would help me with my first-year tuition. With her support, I moved to Rhode Island. Life in college was tough. The cost of living was high, and art supplies were expensive. I worked 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Grandma called me every week, always asking about my classes and projects, but never about money. I didn't want to worry her, so I lied about how well I was doing. One Christmas, when I went home, my parents were skeptical about my ability to handle college expenses. They tried to convince me to transfer to a business school. Later that night, I overheard them arguing with Grandma about the money she'd given me. "You're spoiling her, Mom. She needs to learn the real world," Dad said. Grandma calmly replied, "I'm investing in her future. Her talent is too precious to waste." In my second year, the scholarship committee cut my scholarship due to budget issues. I was devastated, thinking I'd have to leave school. But just before the tuition deadline, I received an anonymous scholarship that covered the rest of my tuition. I knew it was Grandma, but she just said, "Sometimes, good things happen when you least expect them. Just work hard." Throughout college, whenever I faced financial difficulties, an anonymous solution would appear. It was always too perfect to be a coincidence. I graduated with honors, but my parents seemed more relieved than proud. They still thought I'd made a wrong choice. After graduation, breaking into the New York design scene was a struggle. I moved into a tiny apartment in Queens with roommates and took on freelance projects that barely paid the bills. My parents' calls became less frequent, filled with comments about my low income and suggestions that I should get a real job. Then, one fateful day, I got a call from Mom. Her voice was shaky as she said, "Grandma Helen had a stroke. She's in the hospital." I immediately booked the first flight to Seattle, using up all my savings. When I arrived at the hospital, my parents were already there, discussing practical matters with the doctor. "We should start looking for a nursing home," Dad said, scrolling through his phone. Mom added, "We need to sell her house to cover the costs." I was shocked. "Shouldn't we wait and see if she can recover at home?" I protested. Dad looked at me like I was naive. "Home care is too expensive, Ashley. The house has to go." When I finally saw Grandma, she was a shadow of her former self. But when she saw me, she squeezed my hand. As she regained some strength, she started sharing stories about my grandfather. "Your grandpa built a successful tech company from scratch. He sold it for a fortune before he passed away," she said one evening. I was stunned. I'd never heard this before. As Grandma's health declined, she started asking me to bring her things from her house, especially her journals. "Keep them safe, dear," she said. One night, as I read to her, she whispered, "The red box in my closet, secret compartment. Remember." A few days later, she passed away peacefully in my arms. The funeral was a nightmare. My parents ignored Grandma's wishes for a simple service and invited all their business associates. After the service, they said we needed to clear out the house immediately. "There's nothing of value there anyway," Dad said. I wanted to keep some of Grandma's art books and paintings, but Mom said, "Legally, everything belongs to us now." When we went to the house, I found they'd already boxed up most of Grandma's things. I remembered her words about the red box. I managed to find it in the closet secret compartment just before Mom came in. I lied and said I'd only found some old clothes. Back in New York, I finally opened the red box. Inside were old photographs and documents, and a business card of a lawyer named Richard Thompson from Manhattan. There was also a sealed envelope with my name on it. But before I could open it, a client emergency came up. A few weeks later, when I was on the verge of losing my apartment due to financial problems, I got a call from Richard Thompson. He said he was calling about Grandma's estate. I was immediately suspicious, thinking it might be a scam. But he assured me it was about my inheritance. I went to his office the next day. He told me that Grandma had established a trust worth $2 million for me 20 years ago. My mind was blown. He explained that when my grandfather sold his company for around $15 million, the money was divided into 3 trusts, one for my father, one for Grandma's living expenses, and one for me. Dad had received his $5 million share when he turned 35. He also gave me a letter from Grandma. In the letter, she explained that my parents had squandered their inheritance on luxury items and still complained about money. She protected my trust from them because she believed in my talent and integrity. The trust came with conditions. Half had to be invested for at least 5 years, and the other half was for education, housing, healthcare, and a charitable foundation for the arts. As I left the law office, I got a text from Mom saying the house sale had fallen through and asking me to call. I knew they'd be furious when they found out about the inheritance. Sure enough, the next day, my parents showed up at my apartment. They were angry, saying it was unfair that I got everything while they got nothing. I told them they'd already received their inheritance years ago. Dad got red-faced and said that money was for the whole family. Mom accused me of manipulating Grandma to get the inheritance. I showed them Grandma's letter, which detailed their irresponsible spending. They tried to defend themselves, saying the market crashed and they had bad investments. But I knew the truth. Mom then tried to play the emotional card, saying they were approaching retirement with little savings and that the money could help the whole family. I stood my ground. I'm going to honor Grandma's wishes. This isn't just about the money. It's about honesty and respect, I said. Dad threatened to contest the will, but I reminded him that the trust was legally ironclad. The confrontation was painful, but it was also liberating. For the first time, I faced my parents' manipulation and lies. After they left, my friend Lily called to check on me. Her kind words made me realize that I had a new beginning ahead of me. The legal battle that followed was tough. My parents hired a lawyer and spread false rumors about me in the family. I was stressed and isolated, but I found solace in art therapy. I created a series of paintings that expressed my pain and anger. A friend of Grandma's, Mrs. Harris, came forward as a witness. She'd known Grandma for over 50 years and could testify about my parents' constant requests for money from Grandma. She also introduced me to other friends of Grandma who shared similar stories. My artwork caught the attention of a small gallery in Brooklyn. The gallery owner, Mr. Lopez, was impressed and wanted to showcase my collection. The opening of the exhibition was scheduled to coincide with a final court date. Just before the final court date, my parents offered a settlement. They'd drop the case if I gave them 25% of the inheritance. I thought about it, but I knew it would betray Grandma's wishes. I decided to proceed with the trial. The final hearing was anticlimactic. After reviewing all the evidence and hearing the witnesses, the judge ruled in my favor. My parents left without a word. After the court case, I went to the gallery opening. As I stood among the people admiring my art, I felt a sense of freedom. The legal battle was over, and I was finally free to build a life on my own terms, just as Grandma had hoped. A year later, I had a second gallery show titled Inheritance. The series represented my journey of healing and growth. My work had gained recognition, and I'd established a charitable foundation named Helen's Legacy to provide art education to underprivileged children. I'd also met a wonderful man, Jake, at a community art event. He understood my journey and supported me. On the anniversary of Grandma's passing, I gathered my chosen family, friends who had stood by me through thick and thin. We celebrated Grandma's life and the real inheritance she'd left me, the courage to be true to myself and the wisdom to build a family based on love and support.